To create liquefied natural gas, or LNG, energy producers must supercool natural gas to minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit. This extreme temperature shrinks the gas down to 1/600th of its original volume. That physical transformation frees natural gas from the constraints of regional terrestrial pipelines, turning it into a liquid commodity that can be loaded onto specialized ships and sold anywhere on Earth. But this 3D map highlights a hidden geographic trap. Even though those ships can theoretically sail anywhere, 54% of the entire global maritime LNG trade, roughly 29.4 billion cubic feet per day, is forced to funnel through a handful of narrow oceanic choke points to reach buyers. Squeezing that much energy through tight geographic bottlenecks creates an incredibly fragile system. Basic commercial transit corridors have become highly vulnerable targets for military disruption and geopolitical leverage. This data visualization tracks Gatun Lake water levels in Panama. In late 2023, an intense El Niño weather pattern triggered a severe drought, causing the freshwater reservoir that operates the Panama Canal's locks to plummet toward a 70-year record low. Without enough water to float massive cargo ships through the locks, canal authorities slashed daily transit allowances. LNG exporters were suddenly forced to either pay multi-million-dollar fees in emergency auction slots just to cross, or abandon the shortcut entirely and sail the long way around. This map of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait shows total LNG transit volumes dropping abruptly to absolute zero by 2025. A sustained campaign of drone and missile attacks targeted commercial vessels approaching the Red Sea, forcing operators to completely abandon the Suez Canal route. The simultaneous failure of these two vital shortcuts erased decades of geographic efficiency. Going into 2026, the global energy market was operating with almost zero logistical margin for error. In February 2026, a military escalation triggered the total commercial closure of the Strait of Hormuz, an inescapable 21-mile-wide waterway. That blockade immediately severed access to 11.4 billion cubic feet per day of gas, erasing 21% of global LNG supply. The closure triggered an immediate physical paralysis. Marine insurance markets suspended coverage for the region, leaving nearly 1,000 tankers completely immobilized, either trapped inside the Gulf or idling in holding patterns. This animated map shows the Cape of Good Hope reroute. Ships bound for the Atlantic are forced to sail around the southern tip of Africa, a massive diversion adding 19 days to a single round-trip voyage. This delay exposes a technical vulnerability called boil-off gas. Even with heavy insulation, LNG slowly warms and vaporizes during transit. Modern ships capture this vapor for fuel. But an extended voyage forces older ships to consume massive portions of their cargo just to finish. This thermal reality artificially deletes 10 to 15% of the global fleet's total cargo capacity. Without a single ship sinking, transits destroy millions in cargo, costing the industry billions weekly. The fallout quickly bleeds into adjacent industries. Natural gas is the primary chemical feedstock required to synthesize ammonia, which is the foundational ingredient for nitrogen-based fertilizers like urea. The Persian Gulf produces a massive share of these nutrients. When Hormuz closed, it instantly trapped 35% of available seaborne urea inside the Gulf, precisely as the critical 2026 Northern Hemisphere planting season was beginning. This massive shortfall triggered severe physical shortages in highly populated, agriculture-dependent economies. In Niger and courting nations like Brazil and India, fertilizer input costs spiraled upward as farmers scrambled to secure whatever nutrients they could find. When oceanic straits are severed, the damage cascades rapidly through the global economy. A localized maritime blockade directly reduces international crop yields, driving severe waves of secondary food inflation. Faced with waterways that can be closed indefinitely, the global natural gas industry is abandoning the pursuit of the shortest geographic route. Instead, buyers and sellers are spending billions to build supply chain redundancy and physical strategic insurance. One major adaptation is the massive deployment of floating storage and regasification units, or FSRUs. These are specialized ships capable of taking liquid gas, converting it back into a vapor on board, and pumping it directly into a nation's power grid. Traditional onshore import terminals require years of complex civil engineering and billions in capital to build. An FSRU can be leased and deployed to a shallow water port in as little as 12 months, giving countries a highly agile way to reroute imports when traditional supply chains fracture. Companies are also rewriting the strict contracts that used to lock a ship to a single destination. Large global energy traders now utilize highly flexible agreements that allow them to execute cargo swaps to avoid blocked zones. This dual hemisphere map illustrates how a cargo swap works. If a ship leaving the U.S. Gulf Coast is blocked from reaching Asia, and a Middle Eastern ship is struggling to reach Europe, the traders can simply swap their final destinations mid-ocean. The U.S. cargo goes to Europe, the Middle Eastern cargo goes to Asia, and they both avoid the congested choke points, saving millions in fees. These operational maneuvers and floating terminals keep the gas flowing through a deeply fractured world order. But this permanent reliance on longer, heavily guarded routes comes with unavoidable costs, acting as a continuous inflationary tax on global trade.